Greetings, Jay Stone here, host of the Cap and Ball Fanatic channel. Welcome back to our channel. If you're a regular viewer and if you're new, if you just stumbled in here, welcome to our channel. I hope you enjoy it. Well, you can see we had to move our operation inside from outdoors because here in Michigan, the weather outside is frightful. But we were able to get our shooting done for this video before the weather took a turn. And in today's video, we're going to continue our periodic look at guns of the Confederacy by featuring the Pietta-made Griswold-Gunnison 36 caliber brass framed revolver. It's a fine shooting gun, and we'll discuss its interesting history and see how she shoots. So stay with us. So let's discuss the Griswold-Gunnison revolver for a little bit. Before I get into the history of it, this is essentially, and it was made this way during the Civil War, starting in 1862. This is essentially a direct copy of the Colt 1851 Navy, with the differences being this octagonal barrel to round barrel. Remember, 51 Navies had full octagonal barrels, and the brass frame, which of course the Confederate States had to produce their revolvers largely with brass frame because steel was hardly available. And this is the material that they had at the time. It's a good shooting 36 caliber. It feels like the 51 Navy, but it's also an attractive piece. I like the look of brass frames. We'll talk about loading them and how you might load them differently to get some longevity in a minute. So anyways, the Griswold-Gunnison revolver was made by Samuel Griswold in 1862, and they produced it at his former cotton gin in what became known as the village of Griswoldsville, which in Georgia, which grew up around his factories over the years. They made these between 1862 and 1864. Griswold originally had a cotton gin in Griswoldsville, which is a little east of Macon, by the way, and converted it and leased his factory to the Confederate government during the Civil War to make revolvers. Originally, this was called the Griswold and Greer revolver, but quickly became known as the Griswold-Gunnison after Griswold's partner, Arvin Gunnison. So Griswoldsville is an interesting place because not only were these revolvers and munitions manufactured there, but Griswoldsville also became a key mustering site for Confederate States soldiers during the Civil War, and ultimately in 1864, at the Battle of Griswoldsville, it was destroyed by the Union forces in the first battle during Sherman's march to the sea. Now, Griswold-Gunnisons produced somewhere around 3,400 to 4,000 of these firearms during the Civil War period, the most by any of the Confederate manufacturers. They're fine shooting guns. As I said, they're a direct copy of the 1851 Navy with a brass frame and a round barrel. They shoot exactly the same way. They feel good. Now, to try to find these as originals, they're really hard to find in this day and age, and the few that are out there are quite expensive. But Pietta has their version, which I like, which is a real close replica of the originals, except the originals would have had a walnut grip, and Pietta put this Colt-looking resin grip on it, which I don't like the feel of it, but I do like the look of it. Okay, before we get started shooting, I want to talk about loading this brass frame Griswold-Gunnison. Let's go with experience, not just mine, but the people that I know well, that I trust, that have done the research, that actually have photographs of what happens to these brass frame revolvers, both Colt clones and Remington clones, if you overload and get the urge to shoot maximum loads in your brass frame revolvers. These things will, I don't know if you want to use the word stretch, break, but if you shoot a Colt on maximum loads brass frame revolvers over time, the cylinder bangs backwards. When the force goes this way, that pushes this back against the recoil shield, and over a little bit of time, if you're shooting maximum loads consistently, this recoil shield will carve out or peen out the inside of this recoil shield, which will make the base pin in there, that thing that's right in there, the base pin start to wobble a little bit, and then you'll be able to move this back and forth. you can see this one is nice and tight. And then you get too big of a gap between the cylinder and the forcing cone, and now you've got a dangerous weapon on your hands, or it could blow apart. Remingtons are the same way. I've heard many so-called experts say, but they have a top strap. You can just blaze away with those brass framers, and they're not going to be a problem. Well, I just saw some pictures from somebody who's done about 40 years of solid research on these that shows that brass frame Remingtons, when shot with max loads or heavy loads over a period of time, there were pictures of the top strap actually broken in half, making the gun absolutely dangerous. So here's the deal. If you're going to own and shoot a brass frame cap and ball revolver, my best advice is this. If you want it to last a long time, dial down your loads. So in this case today, what you're going to see in our video is, instead of me shooting the 20 to 22 grains of powder that I shoot when I'm shooting a steel-framed Navy or a steel-framed cap and ball revolver, I'm going to be shooting between 15 and 17 grains of powder in this particular revolver. And as you will see, that lighter load goes bang just fine and puts holes in the paper targets and makes the steel gongs echo throughout the land. So let's go get started. All right, we're going to do some shots on paper with my Griswold-Gunnison, part of my Guns of the Confederacy series, brass frame. Let's see how we do. All right, Jason, I'm back again after our shooting today, and I put 4 cylinders on this paper target, as you saw. So now what I'm going to do is conduct a string test to sort of see how I did with my shooter accuracy. You know, you'll recall I've done a video on this. I'll put the link in the show notes. But the string test is a 19th century way of determining the accuracy of the shooter, sort of operator error or operator accuracy, as opposed to accuracy of the gun. And what we're going for is, I'm going to find out the average distance in inches from my point of aim, which is this red dot, to each one of the bullets of the shots on this paper target. So I put 20 shots on paper, and when you do the measurement to each one of these, I came up with 51 inches divided by 20 shots on paper, which gives me an average distance from my point of aim, the red dot, of 2.6 inches. Now, if you've seen other videos, you know that when I'm shooting on the range, I'm doing a string test, Anything under 3 inches on average from my point of aim, I consider that to be a success. And so this, on these 20 shots, is a success. But you're going to say there's only 20 on there and you shot 4 cylinders at it. That's 24 shots. Where'd the other 4 go? Well, they went down here somewhere. But I added, when I miss, I add 6 inches for each missed shot to my total. So then when I add 24 inches, I come up to 75 inches divided by 24. So my string, which is 4 more shots, my string test is actually still the average distance from my point of aim to my average hit is still only 3.15 inches on average, which isn't too bad. Well, listen, what I found from this revolver, it's a Pieta made. It's got the little bead sight. It's just a 1851 Navy with a brass frame and a round barrel. Feels exactly the same. I mean, it's a nice feeling weapon, but I will tell you what I found that's a little different than my other Colts, the Colt reproductions, and that is this one doesn't shoot high. I found all through all of my cylinders and all my shooting today, and the last time I shot it, that it shoots on level with point of aim. But what it does do is it shoots, for me, it shoots quite left. As you can see, I was aiming here, and I'm hitting over here. And so what happened is, with the 4 that I missed, is I was aiming low like I'm used to aiming with my 51 Navies, and I was grounding these things. So it took me a little while to figure this thing out today. But I have to tell you, that's part of the fun for me, of cap and ball shooting. This is a hobby of patience, as I've said before. And part of the patience, part of the challenge, is trying to figure out how each one of these cap and ball revolver replicas that I shoot by Pieta and Uberti, all the different kinds, mostly Colts, but some Remingtons, big ones Dragoons, little ones pocket pistols. Part of the challenge is figuring out how each one shoots a little bit differently, because they all shoot a little bit differently. So when you hear people online say, oh, them Colts all shoot high, no, they don't. Some of mine do, most of mine do, but most of mine, some of them don't. Some of them shoot fairly close. Some of them shoot 8 inches high. Some of them shoot 2 inches high. Now that's going to have to do with who's holding the firearm, the load, the powder load you're using, the size ball you're using, what kind of wind. I might have a little left going today because it's pretty windy here. So listen, this was a lot of fun. I challenge you to do the string test. Test your accuracy, your own accuracy, and don't worry so much about whether the gun is accurate, but I worry about how accurate the gun is in my hand. Because back in the day, if we were out protecting ourselves against attackers or in a gunfight or whatever, it doesn't matter whether my gun's accurate if I can't shoot it straight. So that's what the string test does. Hey, Jay Stone again, host of the Cap and Ball Fanatic channel, with our little after action discussion. Now, this is going to be brief because if you've gotten this far in the video, you saw that we did the string test on our work on our shooting at paper targets a little while ago. But I want to talk generally about today's shooting and what I think about this particular revolver. It really is a lot of fun. I am amazed that it shoots sort of to the level of aim, unlike most of my Colt clones. This gun in my hand tends to shoot a little left. So you saw me miss a few on this of the steel targets. I think I missed 4 out of all those shots on those steel targets. And when I studied the videos, I missed them all to the left. So I was aiming at the center of the steel or not far enough to the right of the steel, and they go whizzing by on my left looking at the target. So I guess I didn't learn my lesson from the original shooting when I talked about it. I'm a little thick-headed, so I just kept shooting point of aim at center, and once I missed a couple, I thought, well, let's just move it over and we'll figure it out. Overall, this is a fine gun. I had a blast with it. I hope you could see that. It's a lot of fun. It's neat to shoot something that's almost an exact replica of a gun, of a revolver that was manufactured in Georgia for the Confederate Army during the Civil War. That's part of the history connection that I like. I decided to go with a little Doc Holliday today because he's from Georgia, and you know, it's fun. So anyways, so I had a lot of fun. It's pretty accurate. The lighter loads cause no problem at all. Well, listen, if you saw anything in this video that you enjoyed, if there was here if you learned anything, if you thought there's any value at all in this video, hit that thumbs up like button and help us out here. If you like what's going on the Cap and Ball Fanatic channel, subscribe to our channel, tell your friends about us, and share our videos with them and across social media so that we can continue to build our community. I had a great time with you all again today. So again, this is Jay Stone. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you on down the road the next time.